Thirsty Mage. We are the podcast where a group of friends sit down for a pint and chat about our favorite RPGs. This week we find ourselves within a hidden speakeasy inside the Golden Saucer. Cold beer, wonderful music, and unlike our game of the evening, we actually get to choose who we spend the night talking to. Tonight on the pod we have one half of the Talk Nintendo podcast, the designated lift operator for the evening, Mr. Casey Gibson.
Howdy ho. There's no one I'd rather spend my night with than you fine gentlemen.
Well, it's always good to be with friends after...
a crushing loss.
A crushing. And also joining us tonight is the man with the insatiable Final Fantasy appetite, fellow NWR Reviews editor, Mr. Jordan Rudick.
I'm going to try really hard. I should just apologize for it now. I'm going to be comparing Final Fantasy VII to Final Fantasy X the whole night, just because I just finished it. So, yeah, if that comes up a bunch, forgiveness, please. One other thing I've decided that I'm totally okay with, and for the rest of time, I'm going to use Ket She instead of Kate Sith. Because I was using it when I was playing Final Fantasy X, because Lulu has, her weapon can be like a stuffed Ket She doll. So I'm good with that now. I've made my peace with it.
Well, it's better than the one I was going with, Kate Smith.
Well, yeah, that aged poorly.
Yeah. And rounding out the panel is NWR owner and man who will give the final say on whether we should be using Eris or Aerith, Mr. Neal Ronahan.
The version that we played of the game is Eris, so I decree we will call her Eris for the rest of this podcast.
It has been decided.
Like, I mean, that's how it's spelled in the version that we played.
Where was Aerith come into play?
I think Advent Children.
Okay.
And I think it is something that, like, legitimately it is the better translation of, like, the Japanese name or whatever. I don't know. It's not something
it's
that
canon,
I
think, right?
Yeah, no. Technically, if, like, it is Aerith, like, that is the character's name, but not in the version of the game that we played. So
yeah, I'm on board for Eris.
Is there any version of Final Fantasy VII that was localized into English that uses Aerith? The base game, I mean, the
I
original
don't believe
game.
so. And maybe when they did this this really excellent port, they should have gone back over that text and taken out and made Eris Aerith, and also take out some of the disability slurs that show up very early in that game and stand out like a sore thumb.
Well, there's a whole scene that could have been deleted as well. So
yeah, like there's. I mean, I even think, like, the Cloud dressing up as a lady sequence, like, that is, maybe raise an eyebrow towards, but, like, that's okay. But maybe let's not use the R word. That just seems like a faux pas, even in 97. Anyway, are we talking about beers? Are we drinking beers?
Go right ahead.
I am about to crack open a Hell or High Watermelon from 21st Amendment Brewery. It's a very good summer beer.
I already had my Red Bull, and now I'm on to my, what do we got here? I probably said this last time, the Great Value Purified Drinking Water Bottle.
That's good. Classy.
Some high quality H2O.
For about 4 cents a bottle.
The best part of tonight's Skype call is that we can actually verify that Casey is drinking water, because I saw it in the video just now.
Oh, I got the video going? I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
The Ket She is out of the bag, as it were. So, thank you, Neal.
It's a Randall Cobb koozie, gone but not forgotten.
Poor Randall. He's moved on. Is he a raider now? Is that where he went?
He's a cowboy, which does hurt a little bit, but, like, I like me some Randall Cobb.
I actually have a decent excuse for not drinking anything alcoholic tonight, unlike my normal lame excuses. I'm going to a bachelor party on the weekend, and I should probably save any remnants of my stomach
No.
that I have left.
that means
for
you
this
should
You
weekend.
need to build up your tolerance.
Yeah, you need to warm up, my friend. You should be doing like shots right now throughout this to get ready.
Gosh, no.
Tough love to your stomach?
Yeah. The stomach is never in a good place. So
This
weekend
are you going anywhere? Is it like something local, or are you like going to a destination?
We're going to Seattle for the weekend. So
cool.
Just driving down. I'm staying at my buddy's place, and then the rest of the group is they got an Airbnb in Bellevue, which is really close to Seattle. So that's our weekend.
Are you guys gonna go like throw beer bottles outside the Nintendo building?
I think we that's gonna take maybe a dozen shots or so before we get there, but I don't want to burn any bridges. I obviously have aspirations of working there one day, so maybe I'll go see if I can find Andre Seegers or Bill Trinan or someone to drink with. That would be fun.
You can stand on Nintendo campus and then throw bottles at the Microsoft buildings that are all around it.
Screw you, Cuphead.
Like it's kind of surreal. Not to go on a complete and totally unrelated tangent, but like. Yeah. They have Nintendo's like nice little building there, and then if you like go like down the road, it's just like, oh yeah, it's the Microsoft campus.
Yeah, I've my buddy does some not freelancing, but I think he's been to the Microsoft building a couple of times for work. I've definitely driven around that area before, but no, never actually stood around the Nintendo building or anything.
Not till this weekend.
Yeah, it's finally time. It's finally time.
Well, it's American beer, so you should have twice the bottles.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll round it out with I'm putting out a shout out to a new brewery in Peterborough, Ontario, called the beer I have is a Smith Haven's Color Beer. It's a German style pale lager with notes of bread and cut grass. So it's pretty light, but it's spring is in the air, and I was looking for a nice pale lager to get me in the mood for the warm weather.
There's a Smith Haven mall on Long Island. I mean, actually sort of far away from me, but a big mall. But I don't think it has anything to do with beer, so.
There could be beer in there, you never know.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a restaurant that serves a fine brewer, too.
All right, well, we haven't actually said what the game is, I don't think. There's been many a hint to it, but the game we're talking about...
There's context clues. Also,
yes,
there's probably going to be a title on this episode. I imagine it might give it away.
Yeah, that too. So it's Final Fantasy VII, the port for the Nintendo Switch.
Woo!
Is that the official title?
Yeah, that's
Final
right.
Fantasy VII, the port for Nintendo Switch.
Specifically.
Featuring Eris.
They had to get Nintendo in the title because it's such a big surprise that it's actually on a Nintendo console.
Yeah.
I was so happy when this came to fruition. So good. And a great port.
And it's on a cartridge after all this time. No, it's not. It's not. Never mind. It's digital.
David, you piece.
I was for a second.
I
was like, wait, did I miss the physical launch?
Limited run? Doing a
Casey would have like
version?
5 of them if that was the case.
Yeah,
Wait a minute. It's on my SD card. Does it count?
Oh.
Yeah, like an
I mean,
smaller
if that's the case, then I guess the PSP would have been the first time it was on a cartridge. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh God. I'm just thinking of those stupid Vita memory cards.
The overly expensive one.
Yeah, like 32 gigs. That's going to be $95.
Yeah, I remember. I
At
think
least.
I wound up getting a 16 gig on the Vita and kept on being like, should I get the 64? And I'm like, that is the cost of literally 8 games.
It was insane. The only good thing is when I resold my Vita, I was like, oh man, this thing's going to get me a lot of money for no good reason.
Investment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, since we're talking about Final Fantasy VII on Switch, we should probably talk about how it's different from the original Final Fantasy. Discuss the port enhancements.
And they're great enhancements, man.
The graphics.
Well, not so much the graphics.
Like.
Well, let's start. Is anybody in favor of the new graphics, or are we all?
I wouldn't
nostalgic?
say that I'm not super anti the new graphics. I think in doing that graphical visual upgrade, like they did a half-assed job of it. They could and I get like it would have taken a lot more effort to like upgrade everything. But like it looks like it's a weird juxtaposition of like the pre-rendered backgrounds and the character models. But it always kind of was.
Yeah. I actually saw the PC version. There's mods out, and I actually seen what it would look like if they did HD graphics for the background, and I'm like, man, why couldn't a Square just like pay these guys? Because it's like already done, and it looks really nice.
Because they didn't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still probably sold a whole ton of copies.
That is the problem. Is that and we are part of the problem, my friends. Is that it seems like all of these Square Final Fantasy ports are kind of half-assed, but we all buy them and we're all talking about them.
Well, the night it came out, I went on my friends list, and I think 9 out of 10 were playing Final Fantasy VII.
Thank goodness, man.
I mean, like, and that's the thing that I'll say with like, well, I actually think all the other port enhancements are kind of fantastic, but with like the graphical upgrade and that bothersome music glitch that, I won't lie, it stood out to me a lot in Final Fantasy IX. The music glitch did not bother me ever during Final Fantasy VII, and like I didn't know to expect it, but it didn't ruin my enjoyment at all. In Final Fantasy IX, like I noticed it and then read that like, oh, people are mad about this audio glitch. I'm like, oh, okay, like I get it. With Final Fantasy VII, it never bugged me. I wasn't sure initially when I like that first night I played a couple hours of it, and it didn't bother me. But that's the thing, is that even with this port being somewhat problematic, you still get the same experience. That's how I feel. David's gonna love this one. With Final Fantasy V on mobile phones, is that yes, I would rather play that game on a Super Nintendo or possibly some sort of Game Boy or DS. That would be the ideal experience, but it is perfectly playable on the mobile phone, even if like, you know, they made the graphics weird and there's like maybe a weird interface or something. And that's the same thing with Final Fantasy VII and all the Final Fantasy games that they're porting to Switch, is they all might have fatal flaws, but they're still extremely playable.
Did 5 have the music bug, like on your mobile?
I don't think so. But I mean, like, 5 and 6 on mobile have that weird thing where they like tried to like HDify the 2D graphics and it looks bad.
Oh. That's too bad.
Like, it's not like, once again, not a game breaker. I played through, like, I went from having played 5 years and years ago and it not liking it as much to playing it on my phone, and it is one of my top 2 Final Fantasy games.
I was going to say, David, when you first put out that comparison video of the graphics between you were comparing the Switch port of FF7 to the PS4 one, is that right? Or was it to the original? Or did you do all three? I don't quite remember.
I think Final Fantasy VII was to the original.
Okay. And I when I first saw that, I'm like, oh, yeah, I actually kind of prefer the original. But as I played more and more on my Switch, specifically in handheld mode, I played almost exclusively in handheld mode. Like, I think the visual style, it kind of grew on me a little bit. Especially I liked how the characters were really clear and easy to see in the overworld. Like, I know, yeah, it is a little bit jarring that the HD characters with the, flatter backgrounds, but there was something kind of easy to recognize or easy to see in the characters that I did like. They did kind of stand out or pop a little bit more. Maybe they didn't fit in as much, but it was nice to be able to see where you were at all times a little bit more, with more definition, maybe.
That's why, like, I played this game a lot with the hitting select or whatever to have the arrows in the hand.
I discovered that way too late.
It is a mess figuring out where to go. Like, what can you interact with? What is a door? What isn't? Like, pre-rendered backgrounds, super cool 20 years ago. Now,
Yeah, I think the graphical upgrade, quote unquote, it's like when it's not looking side by side, like I could barely even, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I would have noticed either way. Like, if they didn't mention the upgrade, like I would just be like, oh, okay, like this is what Final Fantasy VII looked like, Doing, like you said, looking at the comparison video, you could definitely tell the difference, but I don't know, yeah, it definitely didn't bother me. But then, like, when we move on to, like, the new modifiers they add, oh my god, like, what a lifesaver,
I know, like, if I liked Final Fantasy IX upon replay, I would have been as passionate as Jordan was about how, like, I want every RPG to come with these, especially ports and stuff.
I still do.
That's how I feel more so like Final Fantasy IX, if they weren't so clumsily implemented, I would have been more over the moon with it. But with this, how it's just effortless to just click in the stick, to switch on these these modifiers, like it made playing the game way more enjoyable and streamlined in a way that I think that because they are completely optional, you can just ignore them. Like David, after I'm done my little spiel here, I'm curious to see if they ever got in the way for you. But I just love the ability to do the 3x speed, which would make, sometimes travel or especially random battles go very, very fast, or turning off random battles, because what I would usually do is I would go to a new area and leave random battles on for a while, and then after a point being like, okay, I just want to go explore to see like maybe there's some treasure chests or something, I'll turn off random battles temporarily. Or like I want to get across the map, I'll just click on random battles, get over there. And then the full health thing, which that I wish that could have been separated from the limit break stuff, because I kind of just use the full health of like, well, I could use a tent right now, or I could just go into a battle and do full health. And it just made the experience more streamlined.
Oh, big time. Like, for me, I almost always use the ×3 for any... I mean, not like big boss battles, like I would slow it down for there.
Because it's so easy to just click it on and off.
Oh, like, seriously, I find myself, like, playing other games now and, like, clicking the left stick in. I'm like, damn it, I can't do that.
Like shout out to another RPG. Actually, I'll shout out two that came out this year. One that we're going to talk about on another episode, SteamWorld Quest, has a speed up, fast forward button, which is great. Like, I love having that toggle, because you do get to that point with RPGs where you're like, oh, I love the battle animations, and you're like, well, I've seen this a lot, I just want to get through it. And then Mario and Luigi, I assume Superstar Saga probably had it as well, but Bowser's Inside Story, the remake, has that button where it's like, okay, like, I know how this is going to play out, let's just make it
just
quick,
hit that shoulder button, baby. Yeah, it's so nice. Yeah, and then, like, for me, I would generally always go through a new area with random encounters on. And like I said, I think, I might have used the no random encounters more often if the ×3 just didn't make it super fast, Like I never felt like, oh, another battle, because it was over before you knew it, and, like, I was just getting experience, and, I
forgot
so nice.
how lightweight a lot of the random battles are. And I know for some that might be a complaint that, like, the Final Fantasy VII... I think the Final Fantasy VII battle system is probably the most no-nonsense battle system in a Final Fantasy game, like, this side of, I don't know, like, Final Fantasy 1, maybe. Or at least, like at least in... Maybe Final Fantasy IV is one that has another pretty straightforward battle system. But, like, you have Materia. Materia is super flexible. And a lot of the time when I was in random battles, it would just be spamming attack and without much thought. But I kind of like that rhythm of that sometimes. Like, it's like I like spamming buttons in random battles every now and then in an RPG.
Yeah, it's nice to not have to overthink it and still just get the job done.
And then when you do get to bosses, the bosses usually do have clear strategies, and you do need to be kind of smart about when to deploy summons and magic, when to heal, when to hold back attacking, etc., etc.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think the modifiers were implemented perfectly, really, because having them at button presses, like in Final Fantasy IX, because you have to go into a menu, you feel compelled to leave them on for longer than you need to. Whereas with these ones, you can just, like, there was one instance where I was going off by memory and I completely went to a wrong location, and I was just heading back, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna turn off random encounters for this trip back, because I'm already overpowered as it is, and I've just gone the wrong way. So I'm
so proud of you.
Yeah, I
hope you know that completely nullifies your playthrough, right?
I know. But
fake Final Fantasy fan.
David, that's why they're there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's
one of us.
Yeah, in this case, I think it was implemented good, and it was also, it's funny, and I'll let Jordan talk about this further, because I know in the X and X2 there is no speed up, and
oh no,
but
apparently in the PC version there was.
Yeah, Yeah, that's what I heard. But then it's
Why?
funny.
That's stupid. That's so stupid.
In Final Fantasy XII, now I don't remember if this was available in the original or not, but in Final Fantasy XII, there's a speed up as well, which is actually quite useful because Rabanastre is like pretty big, and so you're kind of running around the city a lot.
I don't think it was in the original. I think it was added to the Zodiac Age or when it was first remastered.
Okay, because I've been using that because it's like, you know what, the city is beautiful and everything, but like there's a lot of going back and forth.
Yeah, I think the modifiers are I know I've talked about this during the FF9 episode, but there's these great accessibility options, and I get to finally feel like a speedrunner, even though I'm totally cheating the game and not playing it as intended necessarily. But yeah, I left on 3 times speed for most of my playthrough. I had no random battles on for most of my playthrough. I really just wanted a kind of a relaxed jaunt through the game. I didn't want to, have a heavy stress game. I wasn't trying to, max out all my materia, do all the side quests and stuff like that. I was just trying to get through it and kind of reminisce about the different events that happen in the game and get through it like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed my playthrough of it, but again, it's these modifiers that make it so that I can enjoy these games. And I say that after having just finished FF10 this week, and you cannot skip cutscenes in that game. You cannot fast forward, and those are big concerns of mine with a game that's been ported twice now. The HD remaster of FF10 came to PS3 and then PS4 and now Switch, and it's you guys
Don't
are saying
forget
the
Vita.
And Vita, Vita who or Vita what?
That's actually I've
that's where
only
I-
played a little bit of Final Fantasy X, and it was on the Vita.
No full
Yeah,
health either.
same
like,
here.
It's really just the original game with a graphical upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, I think they add like a 30-minute video or something at the end, and I guess it does put the games together into one package. But yeah, there's you still can't skip cutscenes. You can't fast forward them at all. It's my biggest gripe with the game. It's really dumb.
I don't get the skipping the cutscene because there was one in in X2. I got defeated in a match, and so I went back to the last save, and I had to watch the dang cutscene again. Like it should have known I've seen it already. At the very least,
frustrating. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would get that if you were rewatching it after a death, and then it allows you to skip it. Like I would accept that. But the fact that that's the bare minimum, I should say.
That's
like
the
you
least.
should at least be able to do that.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can't skip anything at all, whether you're playing it through a second, third, or 10th time, it doesn't matter. You still have to go through all that stuff. It's like, oh my god, really? Like that's really bad. But at any rate, like in FF7, like we've got all the accessibility modifiers that I want in games. Neal, you said that. Like, yeah, I do want all my role-playing games like this because I want to be able to play them how I want, and just having those choices is great. I did leave them on most of the time. I never used the full health though, because to me that's crossing the line. So I mean, the great thing is we can all set our own parameters for it, right? We can say like, I'm gonna play it with this on and this on. I'm not gonna use this one. Or I'm only going to use this one in certain situations, right? Like, you're able to have that choice, so that freedom is great.
I did, like you said, I sort of used it like Neal's every once in a while. It'd just be like, oh, well, I'm low on health. Like, instead of just wasting items, like, I'm just going to click this in. I also did do, like, there were a couple areas where I was like, yeah, I want to grind it out for this boss a little bit. And essentially, like, what am I doing when I'm grinding anyway? It's like ×3, and I'm just slamming A on my default attacks, right? So at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make this go even quicker, you know? So I did use the ultimate or the unlimited limit break for some periods of grinding. But yeah, that was sort of my extent with it. I know I'm a monster.
We're going to let you...
It's all right, Casey. Like, Casey, you're a cheater. It's fine. Like, it's not a big deal, right? Like,
yeah. Nolan Boy, you did not beat Final Fantasy. You were done.
They're in there,
you
so
have
you
to
can
do
cheat.
that
It's great.
again.
What's the meme about you cheated the game, you learn nothing, or...
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, we gotta put Casey in one of those for after the podcast. Yeah.
Well, I guess like you guys have played it on multiple versions. Is the consensus that it was most fun on the Switch, or you guys like the original version better?
I mean, I think the portability sells it, right? Like
Absolutely.
the fact that you can play this really long game handheld is great.
Until they release it on a new console that I will probably buy it on. This is the only way I'll ever play Final Fantasy VII again.
Yeah, no, this is definitely, I think, the way to play it because, like you said, you get the best of both worlds. You could hook it up to the TV and you could play those epic moments on the big screen, or, if you just progressing, it's like, oh, just grab it on the go. I could, I sort of got to grind something out. I can watch TV while I play. I don't know. It just seems perfect. And then, like you said, with the added bonuses of being able to speed up and all that stuff, this, for me, it was perfect.
I mean, it's not the best port, but it's not the best port, but it's the best one we have, right? Like, yeah, you could play this game on Vita, but then you're playing the original PSN or PS1 version, and that doesn't have the modifiers, doesn't have any graphical upgrades, right? It is portable, but this is the one where you get all of those things combined. So yeah, I gotta say this is the definitive one that we have.
This is probably Square's long con where they're like, oh, new console, here's a new port, and by the way, we fixed the music bug.
Yeah. Booyah, baby.
Yeah, you gotta buy it. We fixed the bug.
Well,
the hilarious thing would be if the music bug is in Final Fantasy VII Remake.
I was just going to say, yeah, when are we going to see that
Can you imagine?
For PS5 in 2022?
We need to make bets right now if it's going to be Aerith or Aerith. And because they're finally doing a remake.
It'll be Aerith.
So
It'll be Aerith.
In theory, they're going to make it right because they did that in Advent Children or what was the other one? Did they fix it in one of those?
Well, you say they're going to do
probably
it right,
they mentioned her in Crisis
but they
Core.
are going to do an episodic release, right? So who knows if
well,
it'll actually be right.
When was the last time we heard anything about the Final Fantasy VII remake?
A long time ago.
After that, when Cyber Connect got kicked off the project.
Yeah. So here's what we knew about Final Fantasy VII remake. We have no idea what it's gonna be.
Oh yeah, it's good
because the only footage that we ever saw was from a version of the game that is no longer being worked on, and I don't think we know the extent of what Square did with what CyberConnect was working on. I think it's still gonna be an action RPG, which there is something to be said about how like the idea of the remake is like, okay, so there's the traditional turn-based RPG that everybody can play on modern consoles, nonetheless. We're going to make this weird take on it that's an action RPG, which is like, okay, that's a choice.
It seems like it's in the vein of Final Fantasy 15, right?
Oh, God. I would say they're sort of damned if they do, damned if they don't, like, they're going to piss off a ton of people. Like, it could be a great game, and, like, they're still going to piss off a ton of people because it's like, it wasn't exactly the same, And then if it was exactly the same, whoa, why the heck would you just do it the same, Like,
yeah, they're going to change it so that Tifa dives instead of Aerith.
Can you imagine? That'd be a real tragedy.
All I know is if a remake ever actually does happen, I hope the music is the same. Or orchestral, at least. Like, they better not change the notes.
I mean, maybe this is a good time to segue into the music discussion, because I think it's, man, after playing through this game again, I'm reminded of just how absolutely stunning and majestic this soundtrack is. Top to bottom, it is so good.
It's
man.
very good soundtrack.
It's top notch. Like I could literally listen to it. Like I shouldn't say I could. I can. Like I totally put this soundtrack on. It's like 4.5 hours on YouTube, and it's just like I just let it go.
I will say, when I was putting my boy to sleep today, I listened to the video game music box lullaby rendition of the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack, which is very good.
Perfect. Yeah.
It's also super like relaxing too. I mean, like not all the songs, but like even just like the intro song, it's so peaceful, It's like whenever I'd be like, oh God, like just you can listen to that, it just calms you down.
Well, and it's funny that they went with chiptunes when the whole selling feature of the Sony PlayStation was that you had the ability to do full-on CD quality music, but it didn't matter.
I'm kind of glad they did, honestly. Like I haven't listened to 8 as much, at 9 and 10. Like I'm just coming off listening to 10, and I think the music in 10 really pales in comparison to the soundtrack of FF7.
I think 9's got a really good soundtrack.
Now 9 does, it does. But there's something about 7 that kind of retains that old feeling while still moving into the 3D generation, right? Or moving into the 3D gameplay.
Yeah,
so,
it bridges it nicely.
I don't know. It's nice. Yeah, right? Like, it's okay, we're not going to leave everything behind. There's still going to be some things that you do remember, even if this system is capable of more.
I remember hearing something about Uematsu for this. Like, he thought there was going to be more of a limitation with the music or something, which is why he didn't go orchestration or something to that effect. I forget exactly what. I think maybe because they would have designed it knowing what the PlayStation was, but
maybe they looked at that full motion video and thought there was not going to be room for audio now.
Yeah, like there was something along those lines that like the decision to go with the chiptune style was not necessarily like an artistic choice, but more of like, okay, this is what we're doing. And I think it paid off because I think the soundtrack is outrageously memorable, punctuates moments so expertly well, and it's really just a solid earworm soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. You really get all these different types of themes.
Yep.
Like you said, Casey, like it's peaceful, soft in the beginning. Then you got something really relaxing like the Costa del Sol song that plays. The battle themes are obviously, they range from upbeat to like just incredibly majestic and bombastic. And yeah, you've got all these different styles of music, I suppose, represented in this one soundtrack. It really runs the gamut.
I love the foreboding theme that plays through Shinra when you're going through the Shinra Corporation building at the beginning.
Yeah.
Cosmo Canyon.
Good. Cosmo Canyon is classic, man.
So good. It like I mean, you could really say any area in the game has like memorable music, and like it's, you can't really think of or say that for many games. But yeah, like George said, top to bottom.
It makes all the areas familiar, right?
Yeah.
Like you remember going to all these places because you remember the music that was playing when you got there.
So I had this experience of, well, I haven't gotten outside of Midgar in this game since like 1998. So getting past Midgar in this was weird because I don't really remember the specifics of the game. But yeah. As I got to points, I'm like, oh, okay, it's this part of the story. Oh, we're going to the Temple of the Ancients. I remember what happens there. But because of the music, everything kind of like came rushing back to me. Although, as I made my way through it, I kind of remembered why. And that's because I think if you want to relive a Final Fantasy game, but do not want to play the Final Fantasy game, get yourself a copy of Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy for the Nintendo 3DS. Because what I did is that, like, they do have, like, the story ones, but, like, I would just play the music from Final Fantasy VII that was in that game, and it would just kind of call to mind experiences playing that game. And that's one of the things that I love about the music in the series, and especially Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy, is that, like, it's a lot of fun to play music from Final Fantasy games that I love, because then it would just call to mind the experience. And I think that 7 might be the best soundtrack in the entire series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel that way about it too. We've been, during our like recent board game nights, like we're playing a game called Terraforming Mars. It takes about 2 to 3 hours to finish.
My brother has that. I've been wanting to play it.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I'll talk to you about it more later. But at any rate, I throw on Spotify and I put on like Final Fantasy VII, this whole soundtrack, or I put on like, orchestral versions of it or remixes of it, and we just listen to that nonstop. And you hear so many different tracks that my friends were, oh, is this from a different game? Like, what game is this from? I'm like, no, this is all from the same game. Like, you can't even necessarily tell, especially with remixes that just take those songs and change them. Like, they sound like they're from all these different games. They're all different genres or something like that. So, yeah, it really is such a diverse and excellent soundtrack that, man, yeah, I'm with you there, Neal. It might be the best Final Fantasy soundtrack. Definitely one of the top video game soundtracks, so maybe the best in the series.
Sounds good to me.
Waiting for David to say no. FF8 has the best soundtrack.
Final Fantasy VIII has the best of everything Final Fantasy has to offer.
That's right.
I mean, FF8's got a good soundtrack.
Yeah,
but
it's
7's is really good. I mean, I think like 5 and 6 have really standout tracks. But I think 7, because of the variety, I think is what kind of makes that stand out.
I think 7 sets the mood for every scene the best. Most certainly. Like, I don't think there's any argument there, because like you said, every time you hear the song, you know exactly where you are. You can picture it in your mind. So, and it's also the best. You could also easily say it's the best chiptunes as well. I mean, quality wise is probably the best. Like, I always bounce around, and I have different reasons for liking different soundtracks too. I always joke about how technically FF15 has the best soundtrack because it has every soundtrack.
Well, does the Pocket Edition have every soundtrack as well?
No, I don't know. I didn't get past the title, so.
Every time you guys mention mobile versions or the Pocket version, my audio cuts out, so I don't know what's going on there. Maybe some glitch on Skype or something like that.
You need to get the mobile version of the podcast.
That's right, yeah. Oh man, the less said the better. You know, I not to derail this conversation totally just about another music podcast like 2 weeks ago, but it was killing me after we finished recording the music podcast that I didn't put this song on my list, and that's not from FF7, it's from FF6. It's it's Celus's theme that you hear during the opera scene. I think that's probably still my favorite Final Fantasy song, but I think you're right, Neal. I think the soundtrack of FF6, it's top to bottom, it's not as strong. There's not as many memorable tracks as FF7 has, and maybe it's just the sheer number of them. I think there are many more songs in total in FF7. I might be wrong about that, but it certainly feels that way because there's all these different places that you go that seem to have different sounds to them.
While listening to the songs, did memories of minigames come back into your heads?
I forgot how many damn minigames were in this game. And
So many.
I don't think it's really a bad thing, although I recommend not forgetting that the 3x speed is on for any ones that are timing based.
Oh god.
As I did way too often in the beginning, like when you have to like pose in with the soldiers. I did the majority of that at 3x speed, being like, why is this so hard? And then I'm like, oh okay. I do like that, like if like with stuff like, for example, with that soldier one, I found out that they get to a point where they're like, okay, we're just gonna move on. And I appreciate that like with a lot of those mini games, they're like, okay, you're just clearly not grasping this, like you're not gonna get the bonus item, let's just go on. I found the mini games, I think they're relatively inoffensive. I just forgot how frequent they were.
I think the bicycle one is not only my favorite, but I think it has the best music too. Like the music when you're on that bike is great, and then I think the game itself's pretty fun.
The motorcycle one, I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I like the motorcycle.
I mean, you can play the game in the Golden Saucer too.
That's right. Yeah.
Did you guys like the Mount Corel one, or like I guess the series of like missions or whatever you could do?
Those drag a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, I completely avoided all of those, except I think you need to do the one for the story, right?
Or Fort Condor. Right?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
That's what you're thinking.
Yeah. Right.
I was gonna say, I was like, I know what you're talking about, but I don't think that's the right name.
Wrong spot.
Yeah, I did. I forgot about Fort Condor and was like, what's this thing? I'm gonna go inside, and then I started getting through it. I'm like, no,
abort.
Like it all came back, and I'm like, this is
I missed it until I had to go back for the huge materia. I totally forgot. Like I knew of it. I'm like, oh, you know, I don't know when this is coming. Like I'm surprised I haven't gone here yet. Normally you go there really early in the game, but for whatever reason I just missed it.
Well, that mini game, I don't think the only thing it accomplishes is that if you happen to beat it, you don't have to fight the guy at the end. Whereas you can just let them.
Totally not worth it.
Yeah, you just let them come up, and then you fight the one guy and you win. And on top of that, the guy drops a decent item. So it's like you get the item from just defeating the bad guy, and then you get the huge materia. So the benefit of actually doing that mini game properly and winning is it's actually a detriment.
There is a part of me, and kind of thinking about I guess maybe the failings of the Fort Condor stuff is, and I know that this isn't what the Final Fantasy VII remake is ever going to be. That is an aspect of the game that if they ever were to do a more pure turn-based remake, I think if you just clean up a lot of those minigames, you know, either remove them, because I think a lot of the reasoning for having those minigames in there where they were terrified that like this wasn't going to hold up. Mm-hmm. There wasn't going to be enough game in there to justify the giant, big 3D PlayStation disc game. But if you clean up a lot of those minigames, I think this game would be even better. Because a lot of those are either, like, they're cute. I don't think any of them are, like, outside of maybe the motorcycle one, I don't think any of them are really good. They're just cute. And if they were refined in somehow, I think that's an aspect of the game that, if you were to revisit it and improve it, would be awesome.
Well, you think about these minigames, most of them are ones that could not be done in 2D, right?
Yeah.
Like the motorcycle one, the submarine one, the
Oh, come on,
snowboarding
man. You
one.
could have done the motorcycle one in mode 7.
Yeah, maybe, but
Super
I don't know.
Nintendo,
Like,
baby.
It wouldn't have looked good. But...
No, it wouldn't have looked good. But the submarine one definitely, like that's totally you need that
Yeah.
3D to be able to do that. The snowboarding one I think as well. Like they were trying to show off, like here are some other things we can do in 3D now, right? Like the mini games aren't just like a standard Coliseum or something like that, or I don't know. I try to think of like FF6 or FF4 mini games, but there weren't really that many, if any, right? Like it's really here where mini games become a big part of Final Fantasy is when we move into the 3D space.
Yeah, I should have looked it up, but I remember Sakaguchi was talking about. I think like him and Nomura were talking about something about the mini games, and yeah, I don't know.
Did anyone actually enjoy the snowboarding one? I hate that one.
Oh no,
What was the point? What did it even
times
get you?
three'd that super hard.
Yeah, so did I. I hit like every tree on the way down. It was really bad.
Yeah, I tried to
Felt like
avoid
it's like
it, but
ski free or something.
yeah, I just stopped caring. I was like, whatever, man. And I think it was one of those times where I was like, I wanted to play something else, but I was already like, too much time had passed since I saved last, and I couldn't find a save spot. So I was just like,
yeah.
It made like the snowboarding one even worse. I was like, I just don't even want to play right now. Like, let me just get through this.
Yeah. It's really hard, like trying to get all those balloons and hit the jumps and avoid all the obstacles. Yeah, I didn't find it very fun. Like maybe when you PlayStation first came out and you're playing, it's like, oh wow, we're doing snowboarding in RPG. That's so cool. Like, yeah, that's fine. But in 2019, I don't think it really holds up very well at all. A game like that.
And like what was another annoying one was in Bone Village when you had to look for the sector key.
Oh yeah,
and it's
God.
like.
It's just
dude,
stupid,
I was like bombing all
so
over,
simple.
and then I was like, screw this. I am looking on YouTube where to find like, and then I found it. Well, YouTube showed me where it was, and I still had to do it like 3 times. I was like, I am put these bombs right where this video told me to. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, see, I remember that one from earlier playthroughs, and so I was pretty. I think I got the items I needed on the first try. For whatever reason, that game just stuck with me.
Well, look at this guy with his one try.
The Bone Village expert over here. Just, I'm the best at the stupidest mini game in the whole game. So that's fine. That one's kind of just okay. And even the submarine one, like I didn't really care for very much. Like I was just kind of I put it on the 3x speed. Like you're just swimming around, you shoot the rockets. Like it didn't feel like any challenge or danger to it. It seemed pretty easy too.
Well, what's funny too is that the mini games haven't gone away. Like even in future ones, like. I was just having a good chuckle about X2. I got to the mini game where Yuna has to give LeBlanc a massage.
Yes.
Oh boy,
that's something there.
Yeah, it was cringeworthy. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I bet Jordan was really good at it.
I'll let you know soon, Case. I just finished 10, so if I ever do get to 10 too, I'll be sure to put some footage up of that.
You don't want to do that victory lap?
He's probably prepping for 12.
I need a break. No, I can't. I just can't. I need a Final Fantasy break here until we get bombarded with more port announcements at E3.
I hope that they just announced that every Dragon Quest game is coming to Switch over the summer, and we just kill ourselves.
It would kill us. We need a second Thirsty Mage podcast.
I'm gonna call this out here. All dozen of you listeners as my witnesses. We got Dragon Quest XI come out in the fall. I believe a lot of the people here, except for Casey, who like a sadist, played through all of Dragon Quest VII. I know, David, you don't have a lot of Dragon Quest experience. We gotta play at least Dragon Quest V for the purposes of the show. Dragon Quest V, I have not played it in a decade, but that game blew my hair back playing it on DS 10 years ago. It made me go from someone who messed around with some Dragon Quest games when I was younger and being like, to being like, this is the greatest series I've ever played.
Dude, 7 is amazing. I just want to throw it out there.
Yeah, Casey. I'm with you. I'm a 7 apologist as well. I like that.
Oh,
one.
It's so good. Like
I like finding you find the new islands, the new territories, and then there's like a set thing to do on them, and then they're finished. I love that. It was so like
and it helped build that world super good. Like, oh baby.
Yeah. you're literally building the world. It's great.
My beef with 7 is that I wish it didn't take until like hour 30 to like see the job classes.
It's way too long. It's way too long.
That is like, if that game was half the length, I would not.
Neal, all you need to do is give it 35 hours, and it is good.
It gets good. It gets so good after hour 30.
I think I dropped 15 to 20 hours in that. It was like, how far away am I from the job classes? And it was like another 10 hours. And I'm like, how about no?
No, we're not going to do that.
I really want to play through 8, which I have on 3DS.
8 is
8's really good.
No, I know I know. Yeah. Well, that's like my big. I know we're sort of getting off topic here, but it's like, do I?
So we're playing 5 and 8.
It's like, do I drop money and pick up Final Fantasy 12, or do I like dust off the old 3DS and play Dragon Quest 8? You know.
I really am hoping now that all the Final Fantasy games that Square seems to be apt to port to consoles have been ported. Hopefully they'll start porting over some Dragon Quest games.
I'll commit to a Dragon Quest before 11 comes out on Switch.
All right,
Dragon Quest 7. My vote would be 5. If we
can we all play a different one and then just have like a previous Dragon Quest before the Dragon Quest 11 episode? You know what I mean?
That might not be a bad idea.
We'll run the gamut.
Because the reason I say that is I played all of them. Kind of, I did like a little Dragon Quest thing. Like I played 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, all kind of around the same time.
I never played 6.
Yeah, it's fine. The truth is I don't remember all them all that much. Like 5 and 7 and 8 to me stand out the most. 4 and 6 are 4 is kind of like you play as different characters and it's kind of like chapter based.
4 is a proto Mother 3.
Yeah, 4 it's not bad. 4 and 6, I mean, they're not bad games. They're good role playing games for sure. But yeah, I mean, definitely not the must plays. The reason I say we can all play a different one, I've got 9 that I bought, but I haven't played it yet. So I kind of want to play 9.
9's weird. 9's weird.
I've heard that.
Very, very good.
I can't wait till 11 though. Ooh wee.
Yeah. I put like 10 hours into it on PS4, and then as I often do, I forget I have a PS4. And then I never played it again.
Sounds about right.
And then I was like, well, it's coming to Switch anyway. I'll just wait for that. But like that game, I'm so excited to play it on Switch.
Yeah, I'm playing the whole thing in the 2D mode.
This so Final Fantasy VII is the Dragon Quest V of Final Fantasy games. I don't know.
Well, let's get into since we're looking back at games and stuff. How would you say Final Fantasy VII is aged?
I think it's the 3rd best Final Fantasy game.
I think
that's how I think it's aged.
I think it's aged pretty well. I mean, especially with like, I think if it didn't have the ×3 option, it might not have. You know, like
those
the
battles
length of being
are
into battles
sluggish at normal speed.
So it's like I think it would have only have aged a little poorly just because they were like, you know, oh, we need to pad this sucker out, you know. But with the ×3, like, you know, I think I clocked in at around 18 hours, you know, and it was pretty snappy, you know, like you're never in one area for too long. You're bouncing around to different places. I mean, I love a good old-fashioned turn-based battle system. The materia system itself is super fun. Like, I think Neal was saying, like, you could pretty much plug and play any character you want in there and just build them to how you want them to play, you know, whether it's more, you know, like, oh, they're going to use their weapon or whatever, or they're going to be a magic user or a healer or whatever. Like, there's no real set roles for each character. And there are a bunch of characters you could pick from. Like, you don't, like, we probably all had pretty different party members. I went with Cloud, Tifa, and Sid was my final party.
Ugh.
Sid, baby.
I was close. I was Cloud, Tifa, and Red 13.
Cloud, Yuffie, and Barrett was my team. Yuffie was my superstar, though. Somehow she was so overpowered at the end. I don't know how.
I mean, Cloud was always a mainstay. I mean, Cloud has to be in your party until he dies, right?
Yeah, I think.
And then
there's certain parts
and then in the
out,
end,
but
yeah, yeah, like Cloud was definitely Cloud and Red 13 were the two that I loved. Red 13, like I like his character. I like his design. And then I would kind of bounce between Tifa and Barrett.
It is one of those games that does force you to play as different party members at different times. Like, maybe you have to have Sid in your party because he wants to be the leader for a while, right? Or you have to have Red 13, or you have to have Barrett or something for different segments. And
Eris.
I didn't feel like that was shoehorned in, like it felt kind of like it was occurring with the story at appropriate times, and I liked that. Like, I didn't have to go like, oh, you need to use exactly these 3 party members, because I hate when it does that. Like, when your set party is chosen for you, that's different.
Yeah.
But just having one character, like, even if they were a little behind or weren't leveled up as much, like, I could still bring in my 1 or 2 of my stronger characters and it'd be okay. I kind of complement them, right?
Well, you went and got Vincent, right?
I did get Vincent as well. Yeah.
I like Vincent. I like Yuffie too. But
I can't stand Vincent's limit break because you can't control him. Like, I like the character a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to use him, but that limit break sucks.
I mean, I went up bouncing around between characters, kind of keeping them all around the same level. Except for I kind of got a little ways into the game. It was like, Eris is just gonna die. Who gives a shit? And I stopped using her in my party.
Yeah, that always happens to me too. I just drop her like a stone.
Oh, who did everyone end up with on a date in the Golden Saucer?
Tifa.
I was also Tifa.
Eris.
I messed up. You can actually look in the recording that we have at our YouTube channel of I totally flunked getting the flower for Eris accidentally. Like, I was just like, oh no!
I was so tempted to look up a guide and find out how you get to take Barrett on a date.
Not worth it.
It sounds like it's insane, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's a lot of work.
So many things. Yeah, it didn't coincide with me running 3 times through the game, so... I think the game is aged really well, though. Like, it's a game you can still play very, very easily today. Like, it's a simple game. I think the mechanics, like, there is a depth if you want it, but you don't need it. Like, you equip 1 weapon, 1 piece of armor, 1 accessory, right? So there's 2 pieces of equipment, and then you equip the spells you want. Like, you don't even have to worry about, like, oh, does this character have this one? Like, oh, I need to swip this person out. You just put the materia you want on whomever. So there's so much flexibility.
Is there an optimize option in this game?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think so.
Good.
Yeah. Never used it, but I think there is one.
Yeah.
Like, if you want.
Yeah, because like I do think like there are definitely points with all the materia that I get to choice paralysis. Where like I'm like, oh my god, I have so many options of what I can do with these characters, which is one of those things where it's like very cool, and then also I have no idea what to watch on Netflix. Like, I wish that there was maybe a little more. I mean, it's kind of like the back half of Final Fantasy VI too. Once like everybody has magic, then it feels like no one knows magic, and that's how I feel a little bit with the flexibility of the materia system. But ultimately, that's kind of a little bit of a nitpick because it is just like you can do what you want with it, and it doesn't really matter.
Well, I had more materia than slots.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I
mean, that's
what
I mean by the choice paralysis with it is that like I'd have so many options that I'd be like, oh, do I try to go hard into poison? Do I just go to like the core elements? Do I want to make this one all?
Did anybody go through the trouble of getting the Knights of the Round?
Oh,
No.
no chocobo breeding of any kind.
I enjoyed having 3 Bahumas though.
Yeah, I had all 3.
The summons are really cool, especially at 3 times speed.
Oh yeah.
They're tolerable at 3 times speed for sure too. I like the fact that with what I found, I guess, by the end of the game is that there's only a few materia that really mattered to me. Like, okay, who has double cut, who has Ultima, who has like my fully charged or fully upgraded restore materia. And then maybe Comet, like it depends. Obviously, depends what you found or what you have by the end. Like, of course, you've got like your Bahamut summons, your 3 strongest summons, but I find that there's not that many going into the final battle with Sephiroth that you really need. Like, there's some that are really, really strong, and if you have those, you're probably going to be okay. Like, you don't even need Knights of the Round, like the game's pretty beatable anyways.
With it, but getting a little nitpicky, getting a little in the weeds with it.
No, go
but that's
for it.
My thing
is
that I think with materia is that like there's, I actually and this is tying into a game that we're going to talk about in the future. That being SteamWorld Quest, which is another game that I think succeeds better in giving you all these ways to customize each character to pretty much make them different classes depending on what their hand is in that. Yeah. And I think that does it very effectively, where with this, it just, a lot of it feels kind of superfluous in a way. Like, yeah, I can put the good fire spells on Cloud, but like you said, like, I'll probably just wind up using Comet. So then it's just like, I have all these excess spells that I'm like, well, I'm never going to really use these anyway.
Like, I spent all this time early in the game leveling up all these random materia, and like, oh, okay, this one is, it's full, so let's switch it to someone else. Like, let's build up another fire materia, another lightning materia. Like, but at the end of the day, there really is no point to that. Like, if you're going to sell them, you can make some decent money off it. But again, what do you need that for? You don't need all this money. You don't need there's 90% of the materia you don't even need. Right, like in fact, if you take it off, it could improve your physical stats. Right, if you don't weigh your character down with magic materia, which boosts your magic skills, fine. But if you're just attacking anyways, then you don't want to have those things.
Yeah, I almost never had every slot filled.
Yeah, that was me at the end.
Yeah, I think you get to a point where that's kind of how you operate, because it's like there's too many options. I didn't think that I would go into this podcast coming out being down on materia, because I've always really liked materia generally, but it does like I almost want a little more direction in my my magic and summons.
One thing I do like is that there's the blue materia, like added effect, for example, which can add poison to your sword or add ice to your sword depending on the pairing. So I think the pairing of materia with other materia is extremely clever. And I don't know that we've seen something like that. Frankly, I don't think we've really seen something like that in an RPG, where you can actually customize the element of your weapons and armor.
Hey, you there, indie dev. Make an RPG that has a materia-like system and iterate on what they did in Final Fantasy VII.
Seriously, it's so good. Like, you think of something like Cosmic Star Heroine, and you've managed to really identify some of the key things in Chrono Trigger and copy them over to your game, and I think it works out pretty well. Like, yeah, someone do this with the materia system, because I don't know why we haven't seen it again, because it's a really good system. At the end, it does fall apart, but there's so many elements of, maybe pun intended, that I do like about it. One thing I do want to mention just before I pass it on to someone else, there's an item called the Curse Ring, I think, an accessory you can get, and I put that on Yuffie. And if you pair the Curse Ring accessory with the added effect, I think it's De-Barrier. I don't remember the name of the green materia you pair it with, but you make a certain materia pair on that Curse Ring item, and then the curse effect is kind of nullified, and it bumps up your stats like crazy. So my Yuffie at the end of the game, her basic attacks were hitting for 9,999, and she was double cutting the final boss, and so basically the whole point was just keep her alive and keep her attacking. That's all that really mattered. That's how I was able to beat the final boss quite pretty handily, just because I feel like I had this good armor combination or good materia combination on her, or something like that. So yeah, that was, I guess, surprising but satisfying too, and it's the materia system that allows things like that to happen.
And I think and kind of just going off of kind of the critiques that I've been leveling at the materia system, it's why something like Final Fantasy V stood out to me so much when I played that, was that a year or two ago? That with the job system, you have limitations as to what your current job is, what ones you have as secondary jobs. Octopath Traveler has a very similar system as well, and that you do have to make decisions, and you kind of there's a little more of a limitation on what you can do, but you can still make very clever and unique and powerful classes and subclasses and combine them. And I think that's the thing that materia falls short a little bit, but kind of it knocks on the door of it, but it doesn't quite break through the wall.
Just going back to final bosses, what's everyone's opinion of Sephiroth as a RPG villain?
Thank God for 3 times.
He's a ghost. He is a ghost throughout the game.
Yeah, that's
literally.
Yeah,
literally, he's a ghost throughout the game.
Yeah,
and right. Also, like, I remember him being way more present when I played it all those years ago. Like he looks really cool. He kind of sucks
Yeah. I had the exact same experience where I felt like he was always at arm's length, that he wasn't really there. He was more of a looming threat. Like he wasn't there much. And,
because he wasn't there.
Yeah. And then even the times you see him, like that original, like the most you see him is in that scene where they go back to Nibelheim.
Yeah, the flashback.
The flashback,
That's
but
the
he
only
wasn't
time that
really
you
a villain
actually
for the majority of that. Like he was friendly with him for the most part, and then he goes nuts at the end.
Yeah, once he sort of realizes what's up.
Yeah, and then he just kind of pops in and out of places. Like you don't even realize he's the villain at the beginning. Like what are you 8 hours in and it's Shinra.
I do like the fact that you follow his wreckage, but yeah, I mean, like it is like he's this legendary villain who I feel like you never see him do that much. You hear that he does a lot.
Yeah.
And he looks really cool walking through fire.
Yeah, exactly. So the shirtless walk through fire.
I think he reminds me a lot of Kuja in that I don't think he really earns the main antagonist title, or he doesn't really earn the amount of effort we take to bring him down or to try to kill him or to stop him, right? Like he's just not a big enough part of the story. Like you're constantly chasing him, but he's not participating in all these events throughout the game. And so you go and you stop him, and you know that that's part of it, but I don't know that I really feel that compelled. I just don't find it as earned as in a game like Final Fantasy VI, where Kefka does destroy the world, and then you go and then you try to kill him, right? But Kefka does stuff before that as well. Like the poisoning of Doma Castle is so memorable because he kills one of your character's family members, right? Like Kefka does so many things in Final Fantasy VI to make you hate him. And you constantly see him throughout the game. You see him from the very beginning of the game all the way to the end. You see him all the way through.
Yeah.
He's constantly there. You're not just chasing someone you don't see. There is no ghost to Kefka. He is ever present in that game. And maybe that's what makes him one of the best, video game villains, JRPG villains for sure. But yeah, that doesn't really happen with Sephiroth. He is menacing, but he's just not around enough. I don't.
Yeah,
think.
But that's sort of the whole story, right? It's like we're trying to stop the world from dying, essentially, right? And that at first it's Shinra. That's who we need to stop to prevent this. Then it's then it moves on. And
they're good villains. Shinra's a good villain.
They are.
So it's like even though you don't necessarily see him do too much bad, personally, firsthand, it's always that.
What even is Sephiroth? What is he?
With a plan.
No, he's not. He's a ghost.
Was a man once.
He's a vision of Genova. Like that's I feel dumb as a child for not realizing that. Like, oh no, he was just an illusion the whole time. Because it's kind of obvious looking back on it. Yeah. It's like, yo, man, Bruce Willis is dead. Sephiroth is not there. Like,
well, it's funny too because I had the opposite experience with Cloud in the sense that I thought Cloud was more one-dimensional before, but I felt like this time around that he had more character to him. I don't know why.
I like his journey. I like his. It's not. I think that the translation has its ups and downs. I mean, we talked about the use of the R word early. That like really bad taste in my mouth with that. But I think on the whole they do a pretty decent job in the translation of handling Cloud's story arc, of him kind of losing his mind and then slowly piecing it back together. His relationship with Tifa throughout all of that is interesting. Like that's and I do love how they kind of like it's something that I remember hearing about on whatever other podcasts and stuff that I've read over the years with Final Fantasy VII. But you have those scenes early on that are like his childhood, but they're not his childhood. Like they're different memories, and like Tifa kind of is like Tifa and Cloud have conflicting memories of what happened, and you think it's just like, oh, like their relationship's a little rocky, but like no, it's because Cloud had implanted memories.
Well, and I love the twist that you see that original history in Nibelheim, and then you find out that the whole time that wasn't Cloud, but Cloud was there. And Cloud was like
one of the
the guy who
peons.
wasn't good. He was just a normal guy who wasn't good enough to be in Soldier, but now he is, or like, you know, he's gotten to that point or whatever, you know.
He had that chip on his shoulder.
And I like Zack. I really want to play Crisis Core. I would love to see that get ported, because I kind of like that character of Zack is one that I see why they made Crisis Core.
Well, he was he wasn't, the Zack character wasn't in the game for much, but I like the go get him Cloud.
Yeah, but like, I mean, like, that's the thing, is that like it's kind of like the Zack character isn't a big part of Final Fantasy VII. I mean, he's a part of a twist on Cloud's character, but I read a Wikipedia page about Crisis Core after I got through that part.
There's something interesting, like a contrast between Cloud and Sephiroth throughout the game, and obviously it's purposeful, but Cloud, goes from kind of this a hollow protagonist, we don't know a lot about him, seems just kind of like ordinary run of the mill type guy, but as the game progresses, we learn more about him. He learns about his fake memories, and he gathers this resolve after recovering to take down Sephiroth. And so he does become more rounded, he becomes more well-developed, more shaped as a character. But the same doesn't happen with Sephiroth. Sephiroth is very one-dimensional throughout the game. And so you see that Sephiroth really does kind of fail as a villain in the same way that Cloud grows and succeeds more as a hero by the end of the story. So it is kind of like a maybe bittersweet, or a little bit half of one, half of the other kind of thing. Like I wish the two characters had kind of grown together, as opposed to Sephiroth just kind of being stagnant throughout the whole game. The development with Cloud is actually quite good, and maybe a little bit unexpected too. Like, because you do get a lot of these kind of RPGs with maybe more hollow protagonists that don't grow as much.
Yeah.
But Cloud changes significantly, which is nice to see.
Yeah, like I think as far as kind of branching off of Cloud to just talk about the other part of your party. With the exception of Sid, who I think just sucks.
What the hell?
I like Sid, man.
Yeah,
He's the worst.
Yeah, he's just a prick.
Yeah.
He just
but like,
wanted to go to
like
space.
Barrett has a decent little arc. Like I like Red 13's story a lot. I mean, Tifa does kind of settle into the role of, like, Cloud's aide for a big part of the story. But I like Tifa as well. Like I think Tifa is the girl next door. Yeah, I mean, it's tropey, but it works.
Kate Sith, man.
Cat Civ, like, fuck that guy
but then he
to a
pulls
degree,
through,
but also, like, he's fine.
Yeah, it's weird because you want to hate him, but then it's like, oh wait, but I'm actually going to do some good. But like, yeah, no, I know who you are though. Yeah, I like when with the black materia, and he just like sacrifices himself, and then like, oh, there he is again.
Yep.
It's
yep.
like
Yeah,
it's like Beer Fest.
And yeah. You can call me just call me Landfill again.
So funny.
Yeah, when I first played the game, I originally found him kind of a joke. I mean, just looking at his character model, he's riding this giant chocobo mog thing. It just looks ridiculous, and I never really thought too much about the betrayals. But throwing through it again now, I'm like, oh God, I kind of hate him. Like I hate the back and forth. Like, oh, I'm with you guys, I'm against you, I'm a traitor, I'm not a traitor, I'm listening in, I'm not. Like I don't know. The flip flopping kind of, it happens too many times, I guess. So I get kind of fed up. I got kind of fed up with that this most recent playthrough.
And I do like Yuffie. I like Yuffie and Vincent,
Yeah.
but because of their nature as, like, secondary characters, like, it's hard to kind of judge their effect on the story. Because, like, they're not planned to be there.
The most comedic, I think, was Bugenheim. When you're fighting him, and he does the taunts during the fight, and then the way that the fight actually ends, like that's if you've never played it before, to see him get run over by the truck out of nowhere is just insane. Like, he's getting away. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was pretty random. What about just not necessarily party characters, just characters you meet in the world? I don't know if who stood out for you guys.
Well, the whole thing with Red 13's past, I really enjoyed. Like,
Yep, me too.
I can't think of
I love Red 13.
the older guy that like explains how the world works, and then showing like Red 13's father sacrificing himself to protect the village. Like, that whole storyline, I thought was very powerful.
Oh yeah, for
One
sure.
of my favorite parts.
I agree.
And then you also have, is her name Charla? The guy Sid's super mean to? Or the lady?
Oh, God, Sid just sucks.
Hey, she gets her vindication.
Shira? Something like, oh no. Yeah, I don't know. But essentially how she, like, was down there making sure everything was right. And then he aborts, and then later on, it, like, totally failed. And he was like, well, damn, she was right.
Yeah. And then saves them all with the escape pod.
Yeah. He finally got to Spaceman. That's all he wanted.
Yeah. Now he can shut the hell up.
I just remember when I was a kid, Sid said shit.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really
See,
cool.
you once thought Sid was a cool dude.
Yeah, I thought a lot of dumb things when I was 12.
Smoking a cigarette while he fights?
Yeah, I like when he lights his dynamite for his one limit break, with this cigarette. 90s, man.
They're not like NPCs that you just talk to, like, but you fight them a bunch of times. I think the Turks are kind of interesting. Like, I don't really know exactly what their goal is, but they think they play for comedy a bunch of times, and I was always kind of interested to run into them and see what they were going to say next, or what was going to happen. There's kind of a clumsiness to them, and they flip flop between being serious and being kind of bumbling opponents of yours. So I thought the Turks are kind of an interesting group that you do encounter a bunch of times in the game.
Well, and Hojo might have been the true villain.
Yeah. Well, he's the one who's kind of playing like the Dr. Frankenstein role, right? He's trying to destroy the planet or take all the energy or whatever. Yeah.
Or the guy, I can't think of his name, the mob boss there. That's every time I think of him now, all I see is him doing the thrusts on the bed.
Oh
my
and
god!
It went for so long.
We need the name. He's too memorable to forget the name.
Yeah, he's too memorable to forget his name. Yeah,
to remember him. Yeah, that's right.
Don
Corleone, or no?
Don
Corleone.
Yeah. Don Cornholio.
All I see is arms and hips. Arms and hips.
Yeah. Oh my god, that is so funny.
It is hilarious. The scene's pretty bad, but he is hilarious to look at.
I forgot that thing like isn't the first hour.
Yeah, they drop it on you hard, you know.
And like
early.
I can't wait to see whatever they do in the remake, because no matter what it is, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Do you think even makes it to the remake?
That's it. What are they going to cut out? Like, there's a bunch of stuff in this game they could just easily, and maybe for time purposes, they're going to have to cut out, you know?
I'm just looking forward to the snowboarding and the updated snowboarding.
Just, like, make a Tony Hawk
that's what I mean. I think
they
could easily cut the mini games. Like, I think that's one of those things that you'll be like, oh no, we're an action RPG now. It's going to be darker.
It's just going to be Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Oh man, Casey put a gif of Don Corneo on the bed thrusting.
Oh,
it is so bad. Like, you can't look at that and not laugh. Like, it's
he's so
dumb.
outrageous.
Like,
yeah.
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 Yep.
Come.
Exactly.
Jesus.
You gotta go to bed. You gotta go to bed with that image in your head now.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
No. What about favorite moments in the game?
It's gonna be me on the bed.
Like, let's not end with this being anyone's favorite moment, though, please.
It is. It's the most like eye-opening. Like, what were they thinking?
Yeah. No, seriously. What
Being
the hell
edgy,
were they
man.
thinking? It's so awkward. Yeah, I guess so.
That's definitely an edge there.
Well, you're moving from Nintendo to Sony, right? It's time to have more adult.
We need
themes,
more hip thrusting
in your video game.
It's time to have more roly-poly, organized crime leaders thrusting into the air.
Right. We could always use more of those.
As if to say, I'm ready to go, boys.
Yeah. Well, why don't we end with what we would like to see in a Final Fantasy VII remake? Seeing how the whole game could be.
I was going to say real quick, are we not going to touch on
frontal.
the ending?
Oh boy!
I mean,
yeah.
it might open up.
It's cool when you fight.
Well, no,
a
I was
ghost.
going to say even just like the ending, right? When F-13,
the actual
F-13,
ending.
Jesus, Red 13,
Nice.
like looks over, right, and you sort of see Midgar all like busted up, right? Like, and with the
Grassed
whole
over?
life force, right, and everything, like I don't know, I just feel like you could look at that a few different ways, right? Like,
and it's 500 years in the future, right? Like that's not just after you defeat Sephiroth.
So it's like, did humanity die, you know, or did like it just Midgar was just sort of left to ruins, and it's like, well, okay, like forget that, you know what I mean? Like, and the people went and sort of reestablished themselves elsewhere, or like was it the planet's will to let all the humans sort of die off and start fresh?
Whatever you want it to be.
It's cute that you put this much thought into this, because they made Advent Children after this, and they clearly did not put that much thought into this.
If you think about it, I mean, they weren't planning on making that Advent Children or whatever, right? Like, they were like, this is Final Fantasy VII, this is the game, and like, then all of a sudden it blew up and it was absolutely huge, and they were like, okay, we can do whatever we want with it. But like, there had to be some sort of thought process. Like you said, maybe it is just purely up to speculation or the eye of the beholder, you know, but I don't know.
Are there any interviews with like Sakaguchi talking about what they were meaning with the ending?
There's one.
Or is he just like, go check out Final Fantasy Advent Children on DVD now?
Buy it now, $19.99.
There's one with, I think it's with Katase, I want to say. Is that possible? I'm just
Katase.
Just digging it up here.
Would have been.
Where he says, like, okay, the big question is, like, okay, what did all humans die? Like, what happened with that? I think in the interview he says that, yes, like, that was the implication of the ending. Like, that no one survived this. Like, or I guess no humans did. Like, the spell Holy erupts, and yeah, it destroys Sephiroth and, you know, all the bad guys, but it also kills everyone else. And so the planet survives. Maybe life in general survives, but it doesn't mean that humans survived that ending.
Well, I remember they were talking about, like, the planet would decide what they, like, what would stay alive, what would stay in the, like, the live stream would determine who was worthy, I guess. I don't know. Like,
because, yeah, well, it was, the whole purpose of Holy, right, is that, it was going to cleanse the planet of all threats. So, like, clearly humans are huge threats, you know? So then it was sort of like when Eris comes alive and, like, she does her, like, calling of the live stream, right? Like, is that her attempt to be like, well, no, like, humans aren't all bad. Like, let's try and save them. And then is it, like, just a matter of, like, well, she called that shit too late, you know what I mean? And it was like, well, sorry. Or, like, you know, I don't know. It's just interesting because, like, Holy sort of goes around the meteor as it's falling, right? I'm trying to, like, so, like, maybe it just decided not to stop it, you know? Like, well, like, maybe meteor is best for the planet. Like, just wipe everybody out.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess if the goal of meteor was to destroy everything, though, I don't know that you'd have the 500 years later, and then the planet's kind of, you know, it's rejuvenated, and Red 13 has... You know, it has children or
With
something like
pups.
that. I don't know if that happens if Meteor is successful, right?
No, I don't think
Maybe.
Meteor hit, because the point of Meteor, like when Sephiroth triggered Meteor, the whole point was that it was supposed to create a wound in the earth, and when it healed itself in the wound, like he was going to be at the center of the wound when the life stream was supposed to heal itself, and then that would make him like dominion over the planet, or make him one with the planet, I guess, or whatever. So I really think like Holy destroyed Meteor. But I think, like Casey said, the whole, like, Holy was going to wipe out all threats. So
it just let a little bit of Meteor get through to finish off the humans.
Yeah, or they just, over 500 years, wiped themselves out. Like, it might not have been...
That's possible, yeah.
It might not have been an immediate, you know, meteors just killed everybody. It might have just been that humans didn't figure it out, and they, you know, the Red 13s and other like creatures were, you know, the final, or the evolution that survived or whatever, you know.
There is something disappointing though about not knowing what happens to your characters though, right? You've played this maybe 30-40 hour RPG, or maybe longer back then, right, without the modifications, thinking back to people who played the original on PlayStation 1. Like, you don't get any resolution about maybe your character, okay, fine, your characters all die, that sucks, but if they did live, like, what happened to them, right? Like, what do Cloud and Tifa get together? Like, does, you know, what happens to Marlene? Like, you go and pick her up or something? I just want to know you want to know, you've spent so much time with these characters, you want to know what happens to them, and so you don't get that payoff, which I think a lot of people were expecting when they played that game, right? Like there's a lot of stories online about people just flipping out at the ending of FF7. Like what happened? Like what okay, yeah, 500 years later we see Red 13 and we see like the ruins of cities with plants all over them. Where the hell is Cloud? Where the hell is Sid? Where is Barrett? Like we don't get to know what happens to the characters. So that's kind of disappointing, right?
It can be.
I get it thematically. Like, okay, thematically the story was about the planet. The planet survives, right? You saved the planet, the kind of what you were trying to do. But there's still something, just from a story perspective, from an audience perspective, I want to know how the situations or how the lives of the characters play out, even a little bit after they're triumphant, right? Like, what's the point of, like, you remember one of the final scenes of the ending is Cloud kind of hang onto the cliff, and he's hanging on to Tifa, right? And eventually they pull themselves up. Okay, what's the point in showing that if they're all going to die anyways?
Yeah, well, it could just be, like, the point they were making is that the environment triumphed over technology.
Yeah.
And that's with, like, the forest overgrowing on Midgar.
Yeah.
Really, it's just a meditation on their relationship with Nintendo at the time.
Yeah. Well, how prescient then, if 500 years later they finally put the game on Switch, so... Made sense. It was there all along, Neal, we just didn't know.
Just waiting for the seed to bloom.
I just like stories where especially in these longer role-playing games, that you get a little bit of payoff with the characters who you've formed these relationships with, right? I get that the ending is thematic, but I think that I want a little bit of both, right? Can you not give me the thematic conclusion or closure without, and also give me some closure with the characters? I would like to see both. So I think in that way the ending is kind of hit and miss.
Would you have been okay if they had just explicitly said all humans died?
No, because I kind of assume they do.
I don't think there's any way we would have talked about the story this much if it was just like, and all humans are dead. I think I think that open. I mean, that's why Advent Children sucks so hard, because it's just like all humans are dead. Lol, just kidding.
Yeah.
Sephiroth is back.
Yeah. Like I don't. It's not that I want closure. Like I don't really. I do want it, but that's my complaint. My complaint is I want to know what happens with the characters, right? Like it's okay. All humans died, fine. That's not satisfying an ending to me. I think it's kind of a cop out. Like at least give me a little bit. Like I like those endings where you get there are Final Fantasy games that do this too. Like Final Fantasy IV, for example, you get a little glimpse at all of the characters, right? You get to see where Kain is. You get to see where Cecil is. You get to see where Rydia is, right? You get to see all of them, and then the game ends, right? Like, okay, you've beat Zeromus, and then you get maybe fast forward a year later, and the characters are living out their lives, having succeeded. I like seeing that glimpse.
So you'll love X2 then.
I'm gonna have to play it then. I'm gonna eat my words here if I don't. So
yeah, you can see Waka becoming a father, and
I would be thrilled to see stuff like that. That's what I mean, right? Like I like that continuation of the characters' lives after the game has kind of ended.
It even has a character named Shinra.
Yeah, I never encountered that person in FF10 unless it's so I don't know where that came from. Shinra is a name in FF7 coincidentally, but I don't think they're related though.
No, it was kind of jarring to see it so close together though, because I'm like just finishing 7 and then I turn on X2 and they're like Shinra's going to check on your sphere, and I'm like, what?
Like, well, you don't want that. No thanks.
All right. Well, did we want to end with? I think it's pointless to predict what the remake is going to be, but we can at least say what we'd like to see in it.
I was going to say a disappointment.
Yeah, I think what we want makes sense. That's right. Yeah. I think it's going to be a
full
disappointment,
game would
but that's
be
not
nice.
what I want. Yeah. Yeah.
I much like the end of Game of Thrones, in which I don't really have that much of a stake, and I just want to see the world burn. I wanted to come out and just be like this weird action RPG that people don't want, but Square's like, no, seriously, this is what it is. This is what we
like
make.
Normally, like originally I would have been like, no siree Bob, like I want a True Bones remake, like just make it the same game but look amazing, but I would be okay to that, because like you said, at this point we have the original Final Fantasy VII, and all its glory. We could times 3 through some of it, and like we've got that. You know, if they want to do some crazy action RPG, like I'm cool with that. And especially like after playing like Resident Evil 2 remake, how it went very much like like more gritty, more serious, right? Like, you know, because obviously like the older Resident Evil games are sort of goofy at times, like, and just, you know, sort of when they were made, you know. But like if they went like a more gritty, like, you know, running through the streets of Midgar, like, you know, I think that could probably be pretty cool. But yeah, it's like, please don't do episodic. Like, that sounds so stupid, because it's going to be, oh, here's like a sweet chunk of a game, and then like we're going to have to wait 3 more years for the second chunk. Like, oh God, that just sounds terrible.
What would be funny, though, is if they did episodic and the first episode was just Midgar, and then everyone else was, when the next one came out, and everybody was like, no, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah, the remake sold record-breaking amount of copies for episode 1, yeah, and then, like, the drop-off's, like, 80 or, like, 90%.
The problem with them doing episodic, if that it does indeed stay the same, is that they take so long to make bloody games that you would get like the first 2 episodes on PS5, and then the next one would be PS6. You'd have to buy a new console to finish the damn game. Like
they'd re-release episode
so stupid,
1
right?
before
what they're gonna do is
yeah, right. Like
they're gonna have episode 1, they're gonna have episode 2, and then have some sort of Final Fantasy compilation, and then Half-Life 3 is never gonna come out.
Honestly, my worry is that they do something like they did with Kingdom Hearts, where they do 1, and then 2, and then 2.5, and then 2.8, and then 2.93 repeating, and then all these other fractions that I can't calculate right now.
365 over 2?
Exactly, and then, thank you, and then there's going to be like, there'll be a Vita 2, and they'll put one on that, and then 20 years later, we finally get the final episode or something stupid like that. Like, episodic is just so dumb for a game like this.
Yeah, it
like,
doesn't make any sense.
I'm not excited about the game, but it doesn't make any sense, right? Like, everyone, you want to sit down and play this game all in one go. You don't want to, especially with a heavy story element. You don't want. What are they going to do? Like, the first hour of episode 2 is just recapping episode 1.
Episode 1 in like times 3 mode.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It shows like things you didn't even do in your playthrough of episode 1. Like, I totally missed that part. I didn't even go there.
I used
yeah,
Tifa,
like,
damn it.
They're gonna throw us a big curveball, and they're gonna announce that it's an MMO.
Oh God, yeah.
No. David, the only thing worse than that would be if it's mobile only.
Oh God, yeah, David.
Could you imagine? Oh God.
It'll have a mobile tie-in.
Oh, no doubt. It'd probably be the pro. You'll have to play the prologue or like some interlude chapter on mobile, right?
Final Fantasy VII Remake Tower Defense.
Well, episode 2 is a Nintendo Switch exclusive, and episode 3 is actually an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that would involve the Xbox actually releasing games in Japan.
Yeah, good luck with that. Like, I'm morbidly curious about this game. Like, I'm not excited about it. I just want to see how ridiculous it's going to be. Like, how the kind of decisions they're going to make with it. Like, action RPG, like, I'm not as interested. I would rather have the turn-based. But I get it, yeah. Like, we've released FF7 on almost every platform now. You want to do something new with it. That's fine. Like I said, I want to know what the hell this is, what it's going to turn out to be. But I don't think it's going to be a beloved game or a classic or anything like great. You know, I think at best it'll end up where Final Fantasy 15 is. The combat looks kind of similar. It seems to be going for like a similar look as well. So I think FF15 is the ceiling for FF7 remake. I don't think it's going to go any higher than that. But we'll see. Like, you know, prove me wrong, Square Enix. Maybe we know they're listening. So yeah, you can go ahead and do something better than that.
The ceiling would be the Pocket Edition.
Hey,
that's right.
They might hear you.
Pinnacle of video
They
games.
might hear you, but they're definitely not listening.
Something ridiculous that I've been thinking about, just with that question, just playing through FF7 again, was like, what if they rebranded the remake as FF16?
It wouldn't be the first time.
That's probably going to happen.
15 was going to be a 13
versus,
spin-off,
right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they're going to do some rebranding. They're spending all this time working on it. Like FF6, if FF7 remake is not Final Fantasy 16,
that's cute.
16 is never
you
coming.
think it's been in active development?
No,
but the thing is,
whatever they want to call development.
Like Final Fantasy VII remake, like that title will sell more than Final Fantasy 16, though.
Yeah, probably.
He's not wrong.
But I just don't know. Is 16 ever coming? Like, I'm not saying we're looking forward to it. Like, they just finished the DLC for 15, so. And it canceled the other half of it.
They canceled a bunch
canceled
of
like
it.
3 episodes or
well,
something, right?
there was news about one of the directors was reassigned to a secret project.
Didn't he leave?
No, that was the fifth the FF,
no, that was the other guy who worked on Final Fantasy 15. That's no longer
he was the actual director of Final Fantasy 15. He was supposed to do more DLC for Final Fantasy 15. He left the company to start his own company.
He's like,
this guy, where did he come from? He was working on something else. I can't think of what it was. Something that Square just released, and they put him on. They made him director of Future Project, is all they called it. I can't think of what the game that they just did. It recently just wrapped up, and they moved him over.
Not Kingdom Hearts, though.
Oh, I think it was the FF14 director.
Okay.
Because they just released a new expansion. And they moved him over to FF6, or what people think is FF16 anyway. It might just be another MMO or something for all we know.
Ugh.
Yeah, no thanks.
Well, on that note.
On that happy note.
Yeah, I guess we'll just wrap it up with, again, we have lots of reviews on NintendoWorldReport.com for Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy X. Well, by the time you hear this, it might be on the site by now, or will be soon. X2 will be on, and then I'm currently playing Final Fantasy 12, and that review will be coming shortly as well. And
what are we doing for the next Mage episode, David? Have we hammered that out?
So it's
all of the RPGs.
Yeah, it's going to be about independent RPGs. I don't know if the final games have been confirmed. I know what we've got, like SteamWorld Quest, Masquerada, and maybe Shadows of Adam.
From what I can tell, I think I'm about halfway through the game. I think it's fairly brisk. We shouldn't have difficulty getting through, or at least playing enough to know what that game is about. So I'm sure we can
brisk
talk about
as
that.
in like 10 hours brisk?
It looks that way. Maybe even less. Maybe 8 to 10.
All right.
That's not bad.
Yeah. That's where I'm at the. I don't want, it does a 4. It seems like it's doing a 4 crystal thing, and I'm at the second crystal, and I've played for like 3 hours, so I think it's probably in the 8 to 10 range.
Yeah, I think Masquerade is about the same. I can't remember how far.
Okay.
It's the story is so good. I don't even know how long I played.
Just losing time.
That's encouraging.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. I'll have lots of good things to say about that. 2 weeks from now.
We'll save those thoughts for
on our new 2-week
episode.
schedule that we're going to stick to.
That's right.
Sure.
How many times have you said that now, David, this year?
Keep saying it and it'll come true.
We're trying.
He's going to will it into reality.
That's right.
Alrighty, well, make sure to, if you haven't already subscribed to us, to make sure to subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and to make sure to check out NintendoWorldReport.com, follow us on Twitter and all that great stuff. And I'd like to thank Casey, Jordan, and Neal for joining us for the Final Fantasy VII.
The pleasure was all mine. A fantastic game, and if you haven't already, you should go play it. Not you guys, but anyone listening.
Yeah.
Now, no one can see Casey's Skype camera, but he's actually doing the Don Corneo thrust right now as we end the episode.
Go buy it.
It's great.
Go.
That's so
Come.
And on that note, have a good night.
That's a better note.
Bye.
Night, everybody.
See you later.
Good night.